Okay, welcome back, everybody. You are listening to Better Dating and Relationships, and I am your host, Matt, here, as always, with my amazing partner, Anna.
Hello.
And today we have a really special episode for you. We had the chance to actually do a 2-on-1 interview with a friend of ours from the higher game circles that we do. And he's really... Did you just make that sexual? Yeah, if you're listening, I'm sorry, David. All right.
I'm sorry.
All right, anyway.
You said 2-on-1, and I was just like,
Jeez,
my
man.
brain.
Oh, my God. All right. Anyways, I was really excited to do this interview because I had wanted this opportunity to actually sit down and pick David's brain and get to know a bit more about the work he does and what his story was, his origin story, I guess, and what he's doing now, because we have very similar goals in what we're trying to do for men out there. And this was a different episode for us than what we usually do, because this one is focused mainly about masculinity in men.
Yeah, this one is definitely more man-focused. We actually delved into some issues that we generally have stayed away from just strictly because of the controversial nature to those issues, and we decided that it's time that we stop worrying about political correctness and we address some of the issues that are very prevalent in today's society. Even though they may be difficult to talk about, they need to be talked about, they need to be addressed, and we have to do it with open minds and open hearts and be willing to just hear each other. Unfortunately, right now, a lot of men are not able to really have their voices heard. And it's not really fair, in my opinion. And so I was really glad that we were able to do this interview and kind of delve into some of these tougher subjects that a lot of people don't want to talk about nowadays.
Yeah, and the other thing that was important about this is that this may be a lot of men's first exposure into a lot of things that us men who work in the realm of dating coaching or men's coaching might be very familiar with, but this might be might be basics or the base stuff for men who are first just realizing, hey, my life is not working. I am not happy. Something just feels off in my life. I can't find out why I'm off balance. And you may find some answers or something might just click with you on this one. If it does, that's great. I really hope you enjoy this episode. One thing I do want to say, if you are a woman listening to this episode, I would still highly recommend that you listen to this all the way through.
Oh, yeah.
Because this will help you understand the men in your life a lot more.
It helps you see the other side. Because as women, we know our side. We know where we're coming from when we say certain things and the experiences that we've had, but we don't really know what experiences men have had because they're generally pretty close-lipped about it. And this is a really great interview because it gives a lot of insights to what men are going through. And I think women definitely should listen to this. Even though it is geared more towards helping men, the insights it could give a woman into what the men in her life are dealing with as well. It could open up some really good conversations with the people that you know.
And keep in mind, one of the things that we talk about where we say that this is issues that are not heard with men, this is stuff men are not talking with amongst each other either a lot of the time. And usually by the time it does become a discussion, it's done to a point of anger, men who are in frustration, right? The blow-up point. But we're talking about before that, like men who are trying to really redefine themselves and redefine what masculinity is. So I think you get a lot out of this episode and this interview. I really hope you enjoy it. Please make sure once the episode is over, you come visit the website to find out more about David and how to contact him, learn more about his program and the work that he does. So I hope you all really enjoy this. Hit us up, check out the episode notes, let us know if you have any questions. And if you need to get any of the information on how to contact David, we will have that on I believe it's on the podcast, but we'll have that on the episode notes as well. And as always, if you have any questions for us, hit us up as well. All right, so how's it going, everybody? This is Matt here, and we are here with David Kruger, who is actually part of the Higher Game Leadership Circles with us. He has been training with us for a couple months now, and we've talked about this quite a bit during our podcast. And it's a really great opportunity right here to actually be able to talk to you, David, because actually Anna met you at our circle when we all got together and told me she got to talk to you a little bit. She's like, you got to talk to David. You got to talk to David, because apparently we're on similar paths. We have kind of similar things that we're working on. And I've been wanted to. And then next thing you know, we had to leave early. So never really got that chance to get to talk to you and find out what you're about. So now I get to do it for the podcast here, which is
Cool.
great. So David runs the blog website, The Alpha Shift, and you do men's work.
Yes.
Yes. And just if you could just tell us a little about yourself, your work, and how is it that you got into your blog and doing what you do?
Well, it comes from a couple different angles. Everything I've learned about relationships, the work I've done on it, and really about manhood and how to properly be a man, it stemmed from probably just an epic amount of failure in my love life to begin with. I always was a nice guy with the greatest of intentions, and things just belly flopped magnificently. It really kind of began with a divorce 10 years ago. And I survived that by the hair on my chinny chin chin. I was like looking up at the sky asking God, why did this happen to me? I'm such a good guy. Why is she off with some other guy? And this just seems to be happening for no reason. And I started looking for answers, and I started reading, and I found a lot of interesting teachers and gurus. And I kind of started to have my eyes open to, I guess, the real dynamics between men and women, and and women's sexuality. I actually found a particular mentor who I now work for. I began working for him and for another guy who was a big pickup artist. These guys were in the dating space online, sold thousands and thousands of dollars worth of product a month, and I began writing their advertising copy. I just kind of happened into that, and so I was writing their daily emails as well as visual, VSLs like sales letters and that sort of thing. And in order to do that, you have to, a good copywriter gets into the mind of their client, because I'm writing as them. I'm ghostwriting as these people. And so I would have to tear through their products and pull snippets out of it. And so in that, I learned a lot about what they were about, just because I was getting paid on the clock to do it. And at the same time, I saw the limitations of that mentality and of people who are in that space. I was always about, really taking 100% responsibility for who you are, and I always knew that what was really attractive about a man was beingness. It wasn't about a specific pickup line or a thing that you do or a trick or a gimmick or having the right comeback. It's none of those things. It's really about a state of beingness, and how do you get to that? And after a few years of writing all this material, I thought, I know better than this. I can do better than this. And so it began, I started to formulate in my mind, and it began slowly at first. What can I do? How can I show up in this space and authentically and share, what's in my heart? And so the Alpha Shift kind of came about that way, and and in fact, I have a course called the Alpha Shift that I sell through that site. And, and I'm writing a lot of, material. You see the blog and email newsletters, and I'm really just trying to get the word out. And I have a YouTube channel, and so I'm really just trying to discuss this topic and get as much engagement with men. And I'm seeing a lot of anger on the part of men. I'm running advertising campaigns on Facebook, and some of the comments I get, and I get into their minds, and men, a lot of these men are disenfranchised. They don't know what's going on. So, yeah. And I guess I would start, in addition to that, I would say, I also, on the other end, have a personal stake in all of this. We teach what we most need to learn. And in my case, all of my great loves have ended frustratingly. And so it's like, I really wanted to get this part of my life figured out, this part of my, I'm just going to get weird, just part of my like vibration, what's in my vibrational field. Why is this happening? You know, why do I have a relationship? I just had one end, you know, a 5-year relationship end recently, you know, and it was sad for a while till it wasn't, because I mean, that's a whole story, but you know, I just, even when you think that you're doing everything right and you're showing up and you're loving this person, maybe you picked someone who can't receive that love, who's, you know, got issues of her own. And so it's like, and so there's just so much to it. You know, it used to be, I think that in generations past, you know, there were social mores in place. There were expectations. You just got married, you had kids, you didn't get to leave your husband. So there was like force that just kept you in place. Maybe that wasn't a better way. But, you know, now that women don't depend on men for money, and that, you know, there really isn't, you know, any of that old structure in place, we have to find a new way to relate to each other and to live together. You know, it's like we have to reinvent it.
Shifted a lot.
Yeah. And so the way I show up is in, you know, I'm a man, so that's what I know. And so that I really, hey, you know, hey, so I'm not going to teach a woman how to be a woman. And so, you know, I really, that's who I'm showing up at, you know, and trying to help is men, you know, because men are, you know, they're kind of defanged in today's world. They've been feminized. They don't really know how to.
How does a man maintain his masculinity in the environment of things like Me Too and ultra feminism and things like that, where so often even calling yourself a man or calling yourself masculine, a lot of women take that to mean something negative, which it really isn't. I mean,
the word masculinity masculinity itself is perceived as negative to a lot of people.
Yeah. And I mean, the whole point is that there's a balance. You maintain a balance, and you know how a lot of things have been. I call it the pendulum. The pendulum swings. It goes back and forth, and it was more into where, you know, men had a lot more power and stuff, and now it's
the boys' club. Yeah.
Now it's shifting where women do, but the problem is, instead of, you know, taking and accepting that shift and then not abusing it, a lot of times it is getting abused.
Yeah, it seems that the pendulum has swung so far the other way, it was almost like an overreaction. I think that there was probably, I'm sure of it, in fact, there was a lot of anger on the part of women toward men, just on a massive energetic scale, maybe through the generations, for the you know, the opportunities they missed, the abuses they suffered. There was a lot of anger, and as that was expressed, we kind of really swung the other way. And the problem with the problem with being too far to either extreme is that everybody loses. Nobody gets the love that they want. Nobody feels seen. You know, nobody is getting the connection. And so back to your original question, Anna, about how do men show up and be masculine in today's world, my first answer would be very carefully. Within a lot of self-control. Here is what I am finding, because I'm now starting to speak to a lot of women who are in the space of like doing, you know, couples work and stuff. And some of them get a little triggered by, you know, like anybody who thinks that feminism is a bad word or that could be construed as a bad word, and they're all about down with the patriarchy and that sort of thing. And so with someone like that, what I don't do is I don't take an adversarial approach. I try to just take a deep breath, be a space, look them in the eye, I hear you. You know, and if you can kind of embody that and be that presence, and you take and kind of like help so they can bring their guard down, you are now being the superior man that David Data talks about. This is one of my favorite authors.
I read that book. That
yes.
was a good book.
Great book.
Yeah. You know, Adam's buddy, David Data.
Yeah.
And so, you know, but in order to be that, you know, you really need to go within and do a lot of internal work. And this is what I mean. This is kind of what I start, you know, with the Alpha Shift. I start them off with, okay, here's how hormones work. This is why your wife won't sleep with you anymore. This is why, you know, this is why you need to do basic things. You need to, you know, spruce yourself up, look good, get in the gym, do basic things to take care of yourself. Then you have to start doing kind of the more spiritual work. You know, you have to get control of your impulses. I mean, I've seen in my own life just unbridled anger and, rage come out when things got really bad in a relationship. And really, that's just because I was angry at my mother for being bossy and pushy and domineering. It took me till I'm 45 years old to figure that out, but I figured it out finally. And so there is no easy way. You have got to do the work on yourself.
Yeah.
And you've got to really kind of embody that space. You've got to be able to make a woman feel safe. If you're going to lower her defenses so that she doesn't feel alarmed around you, she's got to feel safe. And the only way you're going to do that is through the presence that you bring.
I think a good way I look at it is, even though there is a problem, I think, where there tends to be a lot of this idea that men should be ashamed for their masculinity, and that needs to be reversed, because that's just not a very positive or healthy outlook.
No.
We can understand where the negative outlook on masculinity has come from, its origin, because there was a very long period of time where masculine, or I hate using the term masculine, but men were very domineering and did abuse their power.
Yes.
So I think, it kind of goes to the thing that we always tell with a lot of people where, you're fixing yourself. It may not be your fault, but it's your responsibility. And I think that comes with the masculinity. It may not be your fault that there is this bad interpretation of masculinity, but it is now the men of today, our responsibility to present this healthy, positive, yin and yang version of masculinity in society today.
Well,
absolutely. If we don't do it, who will? It's our time to do this. This is when this is happening. When Me Too first sprung on the scene, I was kind of very triggered by it. I'm like, I'm not toxic. What the hell is this? And I was like, who are you to tell me that I need to apologize for something? And I took it very personally. And I really had to kind of listen to it for a while and really hear the story. And when women I knew started putting up on their Facebook, me too, me too, me too, then I was like, shit, really? It was like, okay. And then I started to calm down a little bit and, realized there was a story here to be told, and I did need to listen, and I needed to calm down a little bit. This is 2 or 3 years ago now.
But the whole Me Too thing, the whole start of it had a very good intention when it started.
Mm-hmm.
And then there were some that just took it to a massive extreme.
Yeah.
And that is what ended up causing a lot of the issues where, like, a lot of men felt very threatened by it because of the extremes of it.
Yes.
Where, the slightest little thing, it was, oh, me too.
Yeah.
And it's not to, like, I don't want anybody to think that I'm diminishing any type of sexual harassment or anything, but there are definitely different levels that women deal with. When they took it to those extremes, it made a lot of men feel like they needed to be defensive. They were like, I am respectful of women. How could I possibly be coming across this way? Like, they're basically saying that all men are like this, and that's not necessarily the case.
Well, I think, if you don't mind me commenting on this a little, David, there's one thing where I think right before it started to go a little bit off, I hate to use the term, but go a little off the rails and start hitting that crazy period, I guess you could say. I remember there was, with the healthy period of Me Too, where all this stuff was coming to light that we weren't aware of, and these the Harvey Weinsteins and all I forget all the names, but a lot of these people were coming out, and you're just like, wow, I didn't realize this was going on. I remember one of the eye-opening ones was, remember Aziz Ansari?
Yeah. I remember. I was like, come on, Aziz of all people?
Right.
Yeah.
And I remember at first I was listening to her story. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, this is not a Me Too thing.
Right.
And then I stopped and I listened, and I still kind of stand by that. This was not really a Me Too situation.
This is a guy with really bad game who was awkward and couldn't read the situation.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. But it did kind of open up a discussion about something that unfortunately I never really saw progress, which was, how do we come across in a lot of ways in our attempts to, mate, I guess, for lack of a better term, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of what happened in the story is basically he was not getting the signals, and he was, I guess, being pushy.
Yeah,
to her.
and because she felt like he had power and everything, it was this is a celebrity or whatever. She felt in turn pressured, and a lot of women don't know how to respond when they feel pressured. They don't know how to advocate for themselves in those situations and just say, I feel really uncomfortable right now. They don't know how they're going to react in that situation. That's something that women actually need to work on.
Sure. And men are immature. I mean, I can tell you myself in that situation, if I was with a hot photographer and I was trying to make a move on her, here's what I would do. Here's what I would do differently than Aziz Ansari. Okay, we'll get down to the nitty gritty. It's nothing wrong with being a little bold and expressing your interest. Make eye contact. Let her know you're interested in you. And it's not hard if you're paying attention to read a woman's signals. Okay, if a woman is interested in you, she makes it easy. She responds to your texts, picks up when you call, and she makes eyes at you when she wants you to come closer. It's not hard. And so if she's being a little evasive, if she obfuscates, if she's kind of here, don't move, don't progress, don't move forward. She's not comfortable. It's that simple. And so it's really just a matter of pay attention, stupid. And so, I mean, really, and I read the story with Aziz Ansari, I'm like, what is he thinking? It was like he was just kind of pushing forward, and he was in his own head thinking, I'm Aziz Ansari, I'm a big star, she'll probably just be thrilled to hook up with me. No.
Yeah.
First of all, you're not a real attractive guy, dude. So you need to work on the personality a little bit more. I'm sorry. I'm just I'm getting real honest, and so yeah. and so it's like really just self-awareness. Pay attention to her. Situational awareness. If you're paying attention to her in the moment and you're not in your own head, you'll see it. Women do make it obvious when they want you to move forward, and they make it obvious when you shouldn't. They really do.
If you're paying, just really, really bad at reading the signals. They read one thing that a woman is doing as a signal to keep pressing forward, where for her, she could be staring at the wall, and he's looking at her and making eyes, and she's totally not. That, and that's where a lot of communication needs to happen. Is are you good with this?
Yeah, and don't be in a hurry. A lot of guys want to close the deal, and they want to hook up, and they want to, you know what I mean? They want to hook up with her this night, this date. It's like they're very agenda driven, honestly. And that's one of those things that kind of, for everyone's sake, needs to change. And when men can change that in themselves, they'll find that they're going to enjoy life a lot more. They're going to actually have more success. And when you're not, because a woman can tell when you're just trying to hook up with her.
Yeah.
I mean, Anna, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so. Women, sometimes they don't always read the signals, but most of the time they can tell pretty easily.
Yeah.
Interested. I know that one thing that will help her keep her interest is just that simple, are you good with this? Do you want to keep going? Things like that just asking.
Mm-hmm, sure.
It's 3 little words. Are you good?
Yeah. Are you good?
Well, we even did.
If a man does that, a woman takes that and sees that he respects her, and she's going to be a lot more likely to allow things to continue to progress.
Sure.
It's not a guarantee, but it's
yeah.
And I mean, we were even showing back, I forget how many episodes we did this back, but talking about how when people say consent, they're always thinking do you consent for me to insert my penis in your vagina? It's
right. Ridiculous stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's and we did the example. It's if you want to kiss her and you're worried about consent, you'd be like, God, I really want to kiss you right now. Just something make it sexy, make it attractive, make it part of the moment.
Sure.
It might have been. But you're still getting consent, but you're not turning this little robot writing out a contract and everything.
Exactly.
There's still a way to do it, but
there's a classy way to do it.
We've kind of gone off on a little tangent here.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah, it's okay.
Well, I think this does tie back because
yeah,
what I think this problem stems from, and David, correct me if you think I'm wrong. This stems back to, I think, a lot of men growing up without really strong father figures, which is why they come to this world of so much confusion, and why. Well, I guess why we have career paths right now that we're.
That's why I'm one of them. You know what I mean? My parents were divorced when I was 5, and my dad was great, but I didn't see him all the time. That was the situation, and so I didn't have that constant male influence, and so I grew up with a lot of guys who were in the same situation, and we all ended up very confused.
Yeah.
And so it kind of became, setting that right kind of became a life mission for me.
Something else you talked about that I found really interesting, and I find a very common theme with a lot of just people I'm drawn to and friends of mine is you said you kind of started in the pickup area.
I was writing for one guy was more in the sexuality, giving women orgasms, that sort of thing. The other guy was one of the big pickup artists. He was like the pickup artist, the guy who taught the other pickup artists.
Gotcha.
And so I wrote for both of them. And for his part, his material, it was, he himself was pretty good with, he could make everybody comfortable. People who knew him said, even men were like, no, he makes you feel great in his presence. And so he wasn't like a sleazy guy or anything. He just figured this stuff out, and he taught a bunch of people. But, a lot of the customers who came to his material, really, some of them needed help.
Yeah.
And I remember the first marketing manager that I was working for, because I was all about, 100% responsibility and you need to toughen up. And some of the stuff I would write, he's like, you got to soften this stuff up. You're going to make these guys want to kill themselves. Some of these guys have problems. And I'm like, well, then why are they buying pickup material? That's the last thing they need. And so, I guess I got to pay some karma back now. At the Alpha Shift, I got to set things right for all this thousands and thousands of dollars worth of pickup stuff I sold these guys. So,
well, I find it funny though how a lot of us tend to start there, and there's almost like this split.
Yeah,
where some will stay there.
Yes,
and the other half tend to go into. We hit this moment where there's like, for me, it was almost like there's just something more. There's something more.
Yeah, pickup is very, it's very social science. It's very male mind. It's about, this is a problem. I'm going to apply, problem solving, and I'm going to get what I want.
Mm-hmm.
It's exactly that kind of thinking, and it's a really difficult thing to apply to relationships with women.
I think it's a good way for guys who are maybe uncomfortable.
Yeah,
like just getting that initial spark going.
It's a good first step.
To kind of teach them how to be more comfortable in those social situations.
Yeah.
But it definitely does not make for relationship material. And like
no,
you and I had that conversation that, for a lot of women, if they were to find out that the guy that they were dating studied pickup, and, at first it's like, okay, well, why did you study this?
Yeah. And I want to make it clear, I never studied pickup. I never was into that, but I just ended up falling in working for these guys and sold it, learned them. Yeah. And yeah, it was not my thing. I would have been the worst pickup artist in the world. I was not into going and approaching women in bars. I was not my, never was my thing. Isn't my thing today. Never will be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just can't deal with that. So, but through it, I'm like, okay, I've got to really find a truth I can live with, and I create a version of myself that I can be proud of. Mm-hmm. And so that was kind of the journey. And that's what I teach guys: create the person you want to be, create an exciting life, and the people who show up in it are the ones you want to date. Yeah. Create an exciting life, be a leader, be someone who's exciting, who other people want to be around, and the rest of it will take care of itself. Stop trying to go out and get affection and sex. Just stop it. Stop.
You call your website the Alpha Shift.
Yes.
So what is your definition of an alpha male?
It is so funny you asked me that question today of all days. Because I don't know if you saw, but our mutual friend Adam Galad just put up a big Facebook article about that.
I did.
I was talking to him about it. I was commenting on that, because he was talking about, the traditional, like in nature, the alpha male in a wolf pack is the meanest, nastiest, kills the other wolves and mates with all the female wolves. In days past, like a man, an alpha male was just, he's just the guy who's the roughest, toughest, the bad boy, good for mating, not exactly good for sticking around raising the kids. And so that's the way I think that science and nature kind of has defined an alpha traditionally. And in modern nomenclature, it's kind of come to be known as, it become this amorphous term. It's like everything about a man that's like manly now is alpha. And so it kind of made me question the way I define it. And I'm defining it as a man who is strong in himself, a man who is outcome independent, a man who takes responsibility and leads in his relationship. This is the way I'm teaching it. This is like when you come and you buy my course and you listen, this is what you're going to get. and takes complete responsibility for himself, his family, his wife, and he'll right down to you take responsibility for how your kids are doing, how the household is going. You take responsibility. You plan the date. You make sure things get done. You kind of create that space, where a woman can relax, and she doesn't have, especially in the modern world where women are forced into leadership positions and their stress is through the roof, more so than perhaps any other time in history. And so, an alpha male is a strong man in a space. And Adam, and I told him that I'm stealing this from him. He coined the term in his post, spiritual alpha. And it's basically a guy who, really has done the work and kind of creates that space and embodies that male presence like David Data talks about. And so I am stealing the term spiritual alpha. I might even have a course on that at some point. And so that is how I guess my definition differentiates from science is, the lion that eats the other lions. Because yes, a traditional alpha male was the guy who would get into brawls and go to prison, but all the women wanted to have sex with him and he had illegitimate children all over the place. That's not what we want to be. That's not any good to anybody. I read once that a true alpha male would be in prison and not a good member of modern society. And that's true. However, the rest of us many of us are considered what they call beta males. And that's the guy who, is more nurturing and endearing and soft and nice and affable. The problem for that guy is that he's not terribly exciting, and the polarity disappears. He's not a strong masculine for the woman's feminine. So the vast majority of us, myself included, are these beta males who are really nice guys, but who in their natural, untrained, unaware state aren't the most exciting guys. And so I had to reinvent myself over the course of my life, over the course of the last 20 years, to very deliberately become the person I wanted to become. And so the best alpha male, and I'm going to put that in quotes, alpha male is a guy who started out as a relatively mentally stable beta who just decided he wanted a little bit more out of life and wanted to be a good guy with an edge. And so that's, I think, the key. That's how I would define it. And, maybe I should put a better explanation on the Alpha Shift website since you guys asked that. Maybe I should. Maybe
there's so many interpretations out there of like what an alpha is. And
I might put a page up about what is an alpha male, because that's a lot of people might have that question.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people get the idea that alpha male is some guy that's like jacked and just I'm in charge and just kind of takes charge wherever he goes, and just like Chad Thundercock.
Yeah, Chad.
Yeah, I use that term in my course, Chad Thundercock. Yeah,
that's awesome.
I use that term.
That's awesome.
Yeah, like this is like you want to know why? How come you're having a nice talk with the girl at the frat party, but then she disappears and 10 minutes later she's hooking up with Chad Thundercock? What happened? It's actually in my course. Yeah,
that's awesome. That's awesome.
It's a big comment out there. Yeah.
Sorry for all the guys named Chad listening.
Yeah, it's for me, there's always different definitions, but I think really the thing that I think a lot of people don't understand, especially those who we all see them online, the compensating alpha.
Yes,
so the guy who's like, we see this in like not the red pill. I don't know if we record it, but we're talking about the red pill movie.
Yeah,
a bit. But then there's the red pill Reddit group.
Yes, I monitor that group. There's some scary stuff going on.
Yes,
yeah,
there is, and they're the first ones to just throw this alpha term out all over the place.
Yeah.
The thing is
I don't think that word means what they think it means.
I don't think it means what I think it means either. Well, I always say, like, if you got to tell everybody you're alpha, you're probably not alpha.
That's exactly right.
But the other thing to realize is that I don't think there may be a few extremes out there, but nobody's like one or the other. It's a spectrum.
Yeah.
And the point is you almost want to be beta in the qualities where it's going to be really beneficial to your life and your relationships, and you want to be alpha where it's going to be really beneficial.
Matt, I put that in my course too. It's like don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You need to have beta qualities too.
Yeah.
If you didn't have any beta qualities, you couldn't have a long-term relationship. You would eventually drive her crazy and she'd go running from you. Yeah. If you didn't have some sort of nurturing, decent guy qualities, And it's funny, a lot of women look at like what a list of like the beta male qualities would be and the alpha male qualities would be, and they look at the beta male and like, that's what I want. I want a nice guy who's going to listen, and they do. For a large part, they want those supportive, nurturing traits. What sometimes they don't realize is where the polarity comes from. And they don't know to say, well, but I also want you to take charge, and I want you to lead, and I want you to make me feel safe, and I want you to, sometimes not always give me my way, and I want to know that you're strong. And some women don't know how to say that to a man. They don't know how to articulate that. And that's where you can like salt and pepper some alpha into your beta, and you got a nice mix.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of men, unless they're kind of in this area of work already, that wouldn't make sense to them anyway.
Right. Yeah.
I sometimes I want you to tell me no. But what?
What? Huh? No. Yeah, she does. She wants, because women test. They want to know if you're strong. And the way their gears work. And Anna, tell me if I'm wrong. But if you can push Matt around, then like, wow, anybody can push him around. That's what you're probably going to be thinking. It's like you want to know that like that if something's important to him, he'll stand his ground.
Absolutely.
And a lot of men won't. A lot of men will just do anything. Oh, honey, whatever you want, just to keep the peace, and they think that they're doing a good thing. They think that she's going to be more in the mood to have sex tonight because he gave her way and didn't let her pick what we're having dinner and what we're gonna
Matt and I have had this conversation before where I think I said it's a lot of women think they want one thing, but that's not necessarily what they actually need.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. A lot of times then when you kind of do stand your ground, she gives you kickback. She doesn't like that. She'll challenge you on it. Just stand your ground on important stuff. It's like, it's got to be stuff that's for the good of you and her and for the family. It can't be stupid, egotistical stuff.
Yeah. It's not about ego. It's about showing that where you stand.
Well, and you have her best interest in mind. You have the kid's best interest in mind, the family's best interest in mind, that you're like being a real leader in serving.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So what do you think let's say ideal world where men started to really embrace this message, what do you think this would do for relationships? And it just we got a 50% divorce rate right now? Or is it higher?
I believe it's more than that. I think they're underreporting it. It's like 50, 51. It's been the same since about 1980.
It's like 70% if you're in the military.
Oh,
well, and what else I hear is that it goes up to like 70 and 80% in second and third marriages.
Yeah.
I have some theories about that. I think I've heard about, pair bonding gets more difficult as you get older and the more partners you have. And, it becomes
sometimes people who go into second marriages, if they haven't done work to recover from the first marriage, they go into a second marriage trying to repair the wounds of the first. And going into a third marriage, they still haven't repaired the wounds from the first and second one. So they're dragging those in.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And you know what? I did it. I just, I have a relationship that ended recently and I do a lot of work. I do a lot of energy work. I had this body code practitioner working on me, and they do a lot of energy healing and find patterns, from your past. And I brought so much crap from my marriage into this relationship. Her and I never got married in this, but I almost kind of consider her my unofficial second wife because we lived together and it was very much like a marriage. We just weren't married. And it was, and so many familiar patterns came up, and I am now absolutely dedicated to resolving those patterns forever and growing from it. And so when I enter into a new relationship, it will be all new territory.
Nice.
And I think that anyone can do it. It requires deliberate creation. It requires, using your mind, your beingness, and really intending change, because change is hard.
It's taking ownership of your past.
Yes.
What you've experienced and what you need to learn from it.
Yes, absolutely.
It's the thing I said before, kind of on a different subject, but the same, like, you're not taking fault. You don't have to take fault. You might in some areas, but it's not necessarily taking fault, but it's taking responsibility. Like,
that's
what
correct.
do you do with what happened going forward? That's
correct. And that's something I've struggled with, Matt, because I've been in situations and, where it's like, okay, she did this, she did that. Clearly she's in the wrong. And I'm okay. And maybe, she's responsible for her actions, but I've got to take accountability for the fact I'm in this situation. I got myself into this situation, and now I've got to heal from it so I can move forward. So I am responsible in that way.
And then you learn, and then you can set up boundaries, I guess, that allow you to not get into that situation going forward in the future, to see those flags coming.
Oh, absolutely. When you really learn the lesson, it becomes a part of you. and you'll just see those red flags immediately. In the future, you get into a situation, you'll just, it'll, like your radar will go off. Like, wait a minute. And you know what? I have been stubborn. I was thinking about this past relationship, and when I was married several years ago, there were red flags that I saw and willfully ignored because I loved her, because the sex was good, because this and that, and because all these things. I'm like, it'll be fine. It's not going to be fine. Do not ignore red flags, and it's like, sometimes they mean you can't marry this person or you can't be with this person, but trust me, it's worse if you let it play out. And so
you're going to have to address it at some point in some way. Yeah. So might as well do it now.
Yeah, that's what I've learned. I know that firsthand. There's no escaping the truth.
So an interesting question, I think, is what are some signs for somebody? So we know a lot of guys who maybe have not even begin to touch their, dip their toes into this work.
Okay.
Maybe women too haven't begun to even kind of think in this way.
Okay.
A lot of this may be really new. I don't know, a different language to them right now.
Yeah.
What do you think are some good signs that might be going on, whether in their life or in their relationship, that could just kind of be like, oh, wait a minute, that you could kind of point out and be like, this is a sign that maybe you need to do some work on, or maybe your man needs to do some work on his masculinity, or what his definition of a man is.
Oh, sure. I mean, the signs are usually really obvious. One of my first, the canary in the coal mine is, how's the sex doing? How are things in the bedroom? And when that starts to wane, and it always, there's always fluctuation, but if there's a serious drop off, it's not, some people think, well, that's just how it is when you've been together a few years. Bullshit. No, you can have a healthy sex life till you're in a wheelchair. So usually what's starting to happen is, after a couple of years, after the newness wears off, and this is where you got to start really paying attention, because if you're in love and hormones are flying, you can go a couple years on the flow to that, up to a couple of years. But at that point, so the oxytocin starts to die down and reality starts to come in, and we start to see who we are with our masks off. And that's the point where we start to really see where compatibility and our stuff. And so start paying real close attention just a couple of years in. And if intimacy is dropping, if arguments are coming up, start paying attention to what's being said. That's a big one. To skip to the other end of things, if your relationship is in real trouble, and this is something that came up for me recently, is if there is a pain point that a partner is whining and bitching about a lot and they suddenly stop, you should be very worried, because that means they've kind of resigned and they're about to leave you, or they've got someone else, or they, if there's something that's a consistent problem and they just shut up about it, be very worried. And I would say, how does your partner discuss? How do they argue? This is very important. I had a situation where she would just, whenever things got a little stressful, she would shut down completely. And it was like, and it wasn't personal. It was just, like an emotional, had some emotional issues, and she would just shut down and just look at me blankly and just couldn't have a discussion. And, it kind of, things couldn't move forward. Mm-hmm. And so you have to look at how they do that. And, their relationships with their parents are important. To guys, I always say, take a look at what is her relationship with her father like? What is her relationship with her mother like?
Sure.
Really pay attention to these things, because they will have an impact on you and your relationship.
Yeah, whether they realize it or not, it will.
Whether they realize it or not. Does she have depression issues? And you know what? For women listening to this, same thing. It really goes both ways. I mean, you definitely want to look at his relationships and, all of these things as well. Because all of these things are you really kind of have to size someone up, because their stuff is gonna, especially when you pass through the in love phase, the part where, I like to say in a lot of my writing, any two idiots can fall in love. Meaning that, like, anybody can, oh, wow, this new person's so great, and it's great for a few months up to a couple of years. Anybody can do that. But, stay together for the long term, work through all your stuff. That's what separates the men from the boys, the women from the girls.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah,
And
relationships aren't always easy because you've got two imperfect people coming into a relationship because nobody's perfect. Even when you do the work, you're still not perfect. You have to consistently continue doing the work. And
I had a big epiphany on this. I am a big fan. I study a lot of manifestation, law of attraction stuff. And I read The Vortex by Abraham Hicks, Esther Hicks, and they do the teachings of Abraham. And I didn't realize it at the time, but The Vortex is basically a relationship book. It's all about your relationships with other people and manifestation. And Abraham characterizes it as, your relationships with other people are the primary way that you come into this world to create contrast and learn what you want and what you don't want. So the difficulties that we face in relationships are actually kind of a part of the deal. They're supposed to be there. And you're supposed to work through it and kind of conquer it and come together through it. That's a part of the process. People, have these hiccups in their relationships and think, oh no, something's wrong. No, this is just the work. This is what you sign on for. It's not all lovey, rosy daisies and whatever.
yeah, you're going to have conflict. It's how do you choose to work through that conflict?
Yes. What is your character?
Down? Are you going to sit and actually talk about it and work through it and try and figure out a solution or something?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's the thing. I would say look for a good character in your partner, both men and women. Really, what is the substance of their character? Because if you've got someone who is going to be committed to you, who is loyal, who is willing to work through things, there ain't nothing you can't get through.
Yeah.
Sure.
That, and that's really what it is, because there always will be stuff to get through. Expect it. It's just, do you have someone you can really depend on? And so that's one of the big lessons I've learned, is to make better decisions in the beginning. It's one of my, some of my more spectacular failures were because I ignored warning signs in the beginning. Really, that's what it is. And I really have to stop doing that. So when I get involved with a new woman, you guys are going to have to watch me 24/7. Okay. I might have to hire you to okay, David, what are we doing here? I don't know about this.
Just get your own separate Zoom account, run a phone.
Yeah.
David, did you catch that?
Yeah. You see, she kind of had a bad reaction to that thing. Yeah, right. That's the thing I'm going to have to watch out for next time, is doing my homework up front. So, and choosing wisely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had kind of a different approach with ours, where we actually got together at a very turbulent time for me.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we did, and because I didn't want to go into another relationship, best way to put this is I was in the middle of doing a lot of the core work, I guess you could say.
Okay.
Pre-relationship, the stuff you need to work through before you actually get involved with somebody. But we had connected on so many levels in other ways. And so one of the things that I did was I was just upfront hey, I've got these things going on right now, so you can be aware of them. This is where I have potential of failing you here and there, just so you know.
Okay.
And kind of in a way said, hey, we can make this work, but I'm going to need your help in these areas.
Yeah.
Right. And I think even in those situations that can work, provided I guess I took ownership, even though I said I don't have it figured out yet, but I'm taking ownership and trying to work on it. Even that can work. The biggest problem, I think, is when people are not taking ownership or not being aware of the problems that they have.
Yeah, absolutely. Anna, did you find that attractive, that transparency of his? And
I did, because he knew himself enough to know that, these are the things that I'm working on. I understand I have these issues right now, and I am doing the work to get past them. But if you happen to notice me falling back into these types of tendencies, throw a flag up and say, hey, snap out of it, buddy. Basically.
I think that could work. Yeah, that's unusual, for someone to be that transparent and to be doing the work and asking for accountability. That's special. That can work.
Well, it's very counter to what the toxic red pill, I guess.
Oh yeah. They're
don't show a weakness. Yes, I was showing a weakness, but at the same time I was owning it, which to me is a strength.
Yes, it is. I agree with you. Yeah, that is absolutely a strength. No, the red pill guys, you do it their way, you will want to kill yourself. I see there are guys on there who go on like, I'm so depressed, I like want to die. I'm like, oh my God, this is horrible. Get off of Reddit. And these young guys read this stuff. These 20-year-old guys read this stuff, and it's like it's so sad and pathetic.
Yeah.
And it's really bad. But yeah, it's like what some people see as the only way. You start off kind of red pill. I went through a red pill phase, and you kind of live there for a while, and then after you get tired of feeling icky, you start looking for something more, and then you start doing real work and taking ownership, like you, Matt.
Yeah. I think it's a stage of hurt. It's the anger stage.
Yes, it is. They call it red pill rage.
We call it for women, though, just man hating, I guess.
Yeah.
So
men, we categorize and name everything. That's why we have the red pill, the purple pill, the black pill. We have a pill for everything, and that's just how men think. And so, but yeah, it's an angry phase that the whole thing is, the whole red pill thing. It's a very angry place.
Yeah.
And I'm familiar with it. I was there. I was angry for a while.
Yeah. And for our listeners, just to clarify, there's the red pill's unfortunately being used in multiple areas. We're talking about the Reddit red pill, which is all about all women are just a bunch of keys and triggers, and you can manipulate them to get what you want. And it's I don't want to explain too much. I don't want anybody really researching it. There is other red pill that refers to more of the men's rights movement.
Yeah.
I don't think is nearly as toxic, and I think people will call it toxic, but I think it's a very bad rap unfairly.
Yeah.
The Reddit red pill, though, that one is the really angry.
Yeah.
Hate. Angry.
Yeah. You have to have awareness, but you can't fall into the anger, and so.
The crazy thing about all this stuff too is they all at the base are all preaching the same. I guess I want to call it healthy, but I guess it's really neutral stuff, which is confidence, work on yourself.
Yes.
Stand your ground, have your purpose, have your mission, like all this stuff that.
Yeah.
Even Pickup does that.
Even Pickup does it. It's all for the same advice. And it's good, healthy advice. Just where does it go from there?
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And so, and to me, making yourself a better man, getting focused on your mission in life, getting yourself fit, those things are means unto themselves. You know what I mean? Don't just do it just to get the woman you want. Let a good relationship be a consequence of who you are, and let who you are be the reward.
Yeah.
In fact, the guy you mentioned, one of our favorite authors, David Data, one thing I told the guy who was a red pillar is I said, something, if you pick up David Data's book, Way of the Superior Man, you will find out he is telling you everything the red pill is telling you, except it's coming from a place of love instead of hate, and it's going to make a world of difference for you.
Yes. That's a perfect way to put it, Matt. It is. It's coming from a place of love, as opposed to a place of hate or at least pragmatism at best.
Right.
He's a very poetic writer.
Yeah.
You kind of have to be prepared for that when you read his books.
Yeah, I remember the first time I was exposed to Way of the Superior Man was about 10 years ago when I was going through my divorce. And I'm like, what is this gobbledygook? Threw it over my shoulder. She's like, could you show me how to get laid? Come on. I was not ready for it yet. It would be a few more years before I could really appreciate it. But, it really is. That's where you want to go. Matt, another one of my favorite books is this one's a little bit more, it's got a little bit more of a Christian take to it. It's called Being the Strong Man a Woman Wants by Elliot Katz. And it's a parable format. It's a grandfather talking to his grandson, and his grandson's having a lot of marital problems. And so it's really good basic stuff about taking responsibility and about taking care of your family and about why your wife might be challenging you and nagging you at home and what to do about that. And you can read it in about an hour. But this is another one of my favorite. This one and Way of the Superior Man are probably the two books I recommend the most, to guys who are, kind of finding their way on this journey. So
it's great.
Yeah, we'll have to add that to our book list.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I strongly recommend it. I think you guys will like it. It's really good stuff, and it's a real easy read.
So David, even though we're pretty good split, I would say small majority of our listeners are women.
Okay.
And while we may have some that might need a little more clarification, this might be new to them, there are some that are probably right now going, my guy needs work on that or needs this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
This may be a hard one for you to answer, but Do you have any recommendations on how a woman can start to help guide a man who may not be aware of this stuff at all into this realm, or to like just reach out to you? How can she get her man to just even send you an email asking for some help?
This is a tough one, and I'll tell you why. A good friend of mine that I work for, the guy who works more in the area of sexuality and intimacy, I do a lot of his, behind the scenes customer service stuff as well, and help him. And I see a lot of the inquiries that come into him from women who say, my husband needs your stuff. Can I buy this product? And I want to have him read it. And this has been going on for years. And in most cases, the husband is extremely resistant or won't even look at it. His pride has been hurt. And so for my work, I think the same thing would apply. If a wife said, hey, you need to read the Alpha Shift, or you need to take the course, the Alpha Shift, he's going to be like, fuck you, and because it hurts his male pride. A lot of times when a woman is like, I'm not satisfied in bed, or I'm not satisfied with this, he takes it as an affront to everything that he is. So I would say, maybe do it very carefully. It'd be nice if you could just be direct. You could say, for some of these women, if you're ready to throw down and say, look, if you don't get this straight, I'm leaving, that helps, but you have to be willing to be that direct. Or you could try the subtle approach and just leave it open on your computer. Walk away, that might, just kind of like conspicuously have it out, but don't mention it. That would be the sly way.
Website written down on the chalkboard or something.
Yeah, and I really do sympathize with women in that situation, because it is a tough thing to bring up to a man, because all the defenses come up about, oh, I'm not good enough, and it just is the case. It would be nice if she could just say, look, can you work on this? And but yeah. If you feel your man needs to work on something, you need to be honest with him about how serious it is. Yeah. Are you going to leave him? Let him know. Give him a heads up. Women tend to speak in subtleties, and they tend to hint around at things, thinking that they're being a little bit more direct than they're actually being. A man.
Really?
It's totally true.
Yes, men require direct communication, and they need to know what the stakes are.
We've had that conversation.
Yeah, so basically, so what you could say is like, look, honey, I'd really like you to take the Alpha Shift course. If you don't want to, that's fine, but I'm filing for divorce. So, throw down. Don't be afraid to. Yeah, throw down. Get his attention and let him know that either that or the subtle approach. But if you just say, "Hey, maybe you should," just nicely suggest it, he'll shoot that right down. I'm sorry, it's just that's my direct experience with this sort of thing.
Yeah,
it sounds strange, but a lot of times you will meet with resistance. But if you let him know how serious it is, he might take action.
It'd be a good problem for us to work on, though, how to help women, because most women are not in that extreme situation. They're not at that point of divorce, but they are unhappy.
They just want to help him, at least in elements. Do better.
Yeah.
And it's that whole, I would be so much happier if he would just start learning this stuff, but I'm not so unhappy that I'm willing to leave or throw away the family or anything.
Yeah, that's how she feels. Yeah, start learning it herself. Leave it open on the computer. Talk about it. Maybe don't say you should read this. And get, and maybe see if he'll take some interest. And frankly, if she's talking about that a lot and he takes no interest, she might want to look at that. Some guys just will not. Another Reddit forum that I follow is Dead Bedrooms, and Dead Bedrooms is my favorite. And there are as many, if not more, women on that subreddit complaining about low libido husbands. There seems to be more of that than men complaining about low libido wives, which blows my mind. And women often talk about, I talked to him about it, and he just says I'm a nymphomaniac and he doesn't want to. I'm like, are you kidding me? I would love that woman who, all the time. I just can't imagine like what is going on emotionally and mentally that he's like running from his wife and doesn't want to have sex. So, and I'm seeing it reported often enough. I'm like, I don't know. It's happening. It's a phenomenon. And so I wonder if that's the same guy who doesn't want to, take on the self-improvement material. Maybe he's like a hurt little boy and he just doesn't want to be, told he's wrong in any way.
So what are some ways that people can find you and get in touch with you, get your program?
Yep. Thealphashift.com.
Okay.
And you can subscribe to my email list right there on the front page. The blog is right there. And I believe there's a link to buy the product right there on the front page of the website. And so it's all right there. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I'm on YouTube. I'm all over the place. So yeah, but start with thealphashift.com.
Are all the links to your Facebook and Twitter and stuff on?
They're on the bottom of the page.
Awesome.
Yep.
And is that also because we talked about it a little bit? We talked about the higher game in some previous podcasts, and we'll
yes,
a little more as we go through the year. But you also run the higher game circle. You're a leader in Michigan.
Yes. In fact, we're having our very first circle on Tuesday night.
Right.
Nice.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. I really understand the power of community. I'm a part of another success club, and I used to do local meetings for them about 3 or 4 years ago. And we had a wonderful local group going, and we all supported each other. And it was really something that was a highlight in our lives. And, I haven't had that in a few years. And so I really wanted to create that. And I randomly saw something Adam put up about higher games, and he meant to put it in like the group, and he put it on his regular page accidentally. I said, "What is this?" And he says, "Well, here, let me send you the replay of something I did, the webinar." And we ended up on a Skype, on a Zoom call, and I joined it. I'm like, this I want in. I don't know what this is. I want in. Yeah. And it's this wonderful opportunity to create these circles and create this community of people who are supporting each other and building each other up. I can't wait to get it going.
Yeah. I absolutely can't wait.
We're pretty excited for ours. So.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. The impact I was given the story. I may have given this before, but one of the things people like us have been in self-development, self-work for a long time, so especially the intro circle. Some of the things that I'm not going to give much away because we want to be an experience when you go there. Yeah. I remember there's a lot of things that are about finding what is it that drives you.
Yes.
When I was going through these exercises, they were really good. It was really good to go through, and I did find details, but a lot of it was just like, what's my purpose? I've known my purpose for a year and a half now, so there's no big revelation when I did it. But then when we're sitting there going through these circles with these new people who've never experienced before, and just seeing the tears of joy and the elation and the impact that this thing has had on these people.
Yeah.
Really, I remember talking to Ann after, I'm just like, wow, this is something big. This is great.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes even if you've done a lot of work on yourself and found your path in certain areas, you can even take these circles and use them to find your path in other areas of your life.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
You just have to shift your focus.
Absolutely. And I'm always finding, purpose and direction in different areas of my life and certain challenges I'm having. And I always get new insights when I go through, the games like that.
Oh yeah.
And I just, it's a wonderful blessing. Adam and Mariella have created something amazing.
Yeah. There's always areas that even somebody who has done years and years of work, there's always areas that you can always do more. So, because we are ever changing and
yes,
ever growing.
Yes.
So,
yeah. If I ever get the experience to do it again, I will not be so laser focused and try to check other areas of my life. I was just very laser focused on what I wanted to do with that.
Yeah.
So, David, if they wanted to check out your intro circles or get to know more about your higher game circles, would they contact you at the same site, or do you have a?
I have a new site for that. It's called davidkrugercoaching.com.
Great.
And how do you spell your last name, just for the people listening?
DAVIDKRUEGER coaching, COACHING. Oh my God, I forgot how to spell coaching. .com.
We'll make sure we put a link on the eepisode notes. But
and there's links to all those websites on my Facebook and everything. It's all interconnected. So and David Kruger Coaching has still got spots that are still under construction. So pardon our dust, but that's coming along. And I have a link right on top to my meetup group. So
perfect.
That all comes with growth, all that dust.
So yeah,
David, this was a great discussion.
It was. I'm so glad you guys had me on. Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Hope we can do it again sometime.
Oh, for sure.
Definitely will. So we will be in touch. And once again, if you want to get in touch with David or find out about more of his stuff, we'll have the links in our show notes. Yep. Or just hit up our email or Facebook or whatever, betterdatingrelationships.com, and we will send you his contact information.
Absolutely.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much, David. It was good to see you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed what you heard, please leave us a review on whatever app you're using to listen to or whatever website, and let us know what you thought. If you have any questions or concerns or issues, don't hesitate to shoot us an email or a message over Facebook, and we will be happy to get back to you just as quick as we can. We're pretty good about responding, and we really love getting your guys' feedback. It really helps us know what you like us to talk about, what you need more of, what direction you want us to go with future podcasts. So we look forward to hearing from you, and thank you again for listening.